Hi, hello, and welcome back to my podcast. Now, what was I talking about? I'm VNR, and for this episode, I was going to focus on catching up with what was going on with Will Trent and the White Lotus, since I wasn't able to talk about either of those last week, since that was my 10th episode. Woo! And I wanted to interview my friend for that. First guest ever. Check that out if you feel like it. Um, But yeah, let's see. Let's start with Will Trent. I mean, it did take a break a week before last, so I didn't miss too many episodes. Uh, let's see. So yeah, we're on episode 9 and 10 now, which is crazy. I'm like, how many episodes are in this season? Like what? Ooh, it's gonna have 18 episodes this season. That's gonna okay. That's gonna be pretty crazy because the first season only had 13, season 2 only had 10. So they definitely got renewed for a lot more going on. Which is okay, that's definitely why it feels like they're more so building up the different relationships and different characters and bringing in love interests to hopefully like expand on what's going on in the personal lives of all of our main cast. Uh, oh yeah, okay. So at episode 9, it's called "This Kid's Gonna Be All Right," and I'm like, "Is this gonna be all right?" Um, and we, of course, again, we're following two different cases. Will and Faith's case is about like a murder of a famous rapper, way more like high profile, and Angie and Ormwood's uh is more about in the description it's calling it an underground swingers club, which I guess technically that was what was going on, but it was like a someone died and it was like at a kink party and what was I say? It was definitely interesting going back to Will and Faith's case, for them to sort of lean more into like we're in Georgia, we're in Atlanta. There is a music scene there, and like repping the music scene over there. And I was like, damn, that's crazy. Okay, we because the previous episode we had like the sort of uh Housewives of Atlanta situation. Not really like it was a Housewives thing, but not specifically Housewives of Atlanta. Um, and just in general thinking about like reality TV. I would say last season it was more like Housewives of Atlanta, uh, which was pretty funny. I'm just like, oh, this is look at the drama and Armwood being a fan of reality TV in that way was kind of funny. He his characters are really interesting because I'm gonna probably end up talking about both the episodes, even though they're not related. I was definitely excited to watch this week's episode because I was like, the way the last week's episode ended, I was like, oh shit, I need to know what's gonna go on. But just to kind of go over Armwood's character a little bit, he definitely has like sort of like stereotypical straight white guy, like archetype, and he's a dad, like he's pretty masculine presenting and everything like that. But they definitely give him little things like being a huge fan of reality TV and all this stuff to sort of round out his character and not him be just like this broy guy. Um which is, always nice because I'm like, yeah, uh men have men can have multitudes to them. And he is someone who is pretty intimidating. Um, like in general, upon like seeing him and stuff, like he's you know, he's just a bro, man. But they've like rounded him out and tried to soften him up too, and like probably make him more relatable, I guess. Um, but yeah, in episode 9, um, I'm trying to think. It was interesting how that one came about because I was like, what was that? Because they were kind of making it seem like a different rapper had killed this rapper that was a part of rap duo and was using the killing as a way to legitimize his music and everything like that, and to promote himself. And then, of course, he got signed to this label run by um, Raphael, who we know from past episodes is like, like he's definitely gang affiliated, but also a dad and loving and everything like that, and loves his family. So there's like this sort of mix of like, well, we know he's in crime and we know he's not necessarily doing good. It, yeah, it's so gray. But so he runs the record label that this guy who allegedly is like a suspect to the murder of this other rapper. And it was just kind of funny because it ended up that Faith's son, Jeremy, this is the record label that he left his college and like college life to pursue because this is like where he's doing his internship, because that was like a whole thing too of like Jeremy leaving school to pursue music and do something he's more passionate about. Um, which of course, Faith being both a cop but also a mom, she had him as a teenager, so she's still really young. But just like a whole thing of like, I'm like, my cats are really just going at it right now, and it's been really distracting. And I don't, it's hard to tell if the mic is picking it up. I don't think it is, but it's still just like, what are y'all doing? Um, but anyway, so yeah, it's like, I know it seems for her, it's just like a back and forth of like, well, I want him to pursue what he wants to do, but I also want him to like go to college and all this stuff. But she says she's gonna support him either way, whatever endeavors he does. But it's kind of funny because it's like they know Raphael does like gang affiliated criminal shit, drug shit, and they're telling him that obviously the music studio and boxing ring duo, it's an interesting space, um, is obviously like upfront so that Raphael can launder money, because that's not how he makes his money. And he's like, no, what are you talking about? And then later on in the episode, Raphael literally confirms that. He's like, yeah, obviously that's what we're doing. We don't make money from the music. We make money from fucking moving and selling drugs. And of course, Jeremy is shocked Pikachu face about this. But Jeremy wants to make music, and yeah, I'm just gonna round out like that plot line and then go to the Angie plot line, I think. But yeah, so Jeremy wants to make music, and he was able to use all the equipment after hours to make his own track that a different I forget if he was a musician or producer. No, he was a rapper. That a rapper that was there visiting was able to hear, and he was like, "Actually, I do really like your track. I want to use it." And Raphael was like, technically, that track doesn't belong to you because you used my equipment, and I'm gonna fire you because you're related to that cop lady, and I don't want any smoke, you know. Uh, and and so because Jeremy is again really passionate about music making and wanting to still be in that space, oh, that was a whole funny thing of like conscious rap. Is it profitable unless you're Kendrick or Cole? And I was like, that's so fucking funny. Y'all are so silly. Um, but yeah, Raphael kind of gave him an ultimatum of like either you leave or you deliver this bag, basically full of drugs. And um and Raphael was like, I'll let you stay if you deliver this bag. Because I'm putting my trust in you by doing this. And Jeremy agrees to do it, and I was like, oh fuck, you literally could have just walked away and just did, you know, move to a different music record label or anything like that, but you chose to do this, and this is fucked up. And then he ends up getting pulled over by the cops. He calls Will instead of his mom and tells him the situation. And Will's like, fuck, I don't do anything illegal. Like, literally, we ended the last season of him arresting Angie because he physically could not allow her to get away with covering up murder and all this stuff. Um, and that's ultimately what, you know, destroyed their relationship. Um, so Will was he he literally like cooked up a whole thing of like you're interrupting my undercover agent in this thing that we're setting up to catch Raphael because yeah, no, that's literally it. I got distracted again because my cats are just having so much fun. Um, and he's like, Jeremy has to deliver these drugs because this is a part of the setup because we're gathering information against him. And of course, the other cops are not happy about it because they're like, damn, we're trying to, you know, the war on drugs or whatever, da da da. And yeah, so Will's like, I don't do anything illegal. You're either gonna literally do what I just said, or you're going to jail for 20 years. And he's like, I don't want to be a snitch, but you literally did this to yourself. You literally did this to yourself. Um, and yeah, so now he's fucked. Now he's fucked. And that was like kind of the end of it. Oh, just to go back, because I didn't even really go over like the crime, the murder, but it ended up that the other half of the rap duo was the one to kill the guy because the person was saying like because of him and them changing their image, they were losing money. So in his mind, he's like, obviously, I should just kill the person that is causing us to change. The logic is lost on me, but I mean, what can I do? I'm not a killer. I don't think like that. Different if it was like a crime of passion though, but this was premeditated. I'm like making it look like a fight. He broke uh, sh- a champagne bottle to make it look like it was part of the struggle, and he stabbed himself with it, and then sliced the guy's like neck. And this was all like sort of in the beginning to set up the crime. Um, and then with Angie and Armwood, the person died of blah, blah, blah. Why can't I say this word? Asphyxiation. There we go. And she was at a king party and trying to figure out why I sound different. Am I too far away? Oh, I was just too far away from the mic. I wasn't that far away. But anyway, I was actually like, okay, it feels a little bit more respectful in a way because I feel like whenever kink and crime in one of these shows in general, the cops or detectives or whatever usually have more of a conservative mindset around any of it, any of kink or whatever. And it's usually like calling these people freaks without saying they're freaks. And of course there was like sort of a um spotlight on these people and their lifestyle and everything like that. But I still felt like it was respectful. And it was, like they're literally like, no, these are all consenting people. Like they're usually vetted, which is usually the norm of like not even just like at least with them, I was like, this person's like checking IDs and stuff. And I'm like, that's pretty normal in like the scene, as it's called. And actually, now that I think about it, because I'm like, how do I just like from someone who has been in the kink community, coming kink community, at least in the past, not recently. And like being on FetLife, which was like the big site. I know it still exists, but it's pretty dead on there. Um, but there's a scene everywhere, and there's definitely a scene in Georgia, and this seemed like one of those where it's like a house party. It's like set up like a house party, um, where there's like rooms where people can like do like swinging and people can watch them do stuff like with like curtains and stuff. So you'll know someone's there, but you don't see them and they see you type of situation. Um, and the person who died, she was a dom and her husband was a sub, and she was really into getting choked, specifically by strangers. Her husband could do it, but it wasn't something he liked doing, but because he's a submissive, he did it because, she told him to. And um at first there's like a red herring. I mean, of course people are like maybe it was the husband, maybe he felt threatened or whatever because, he's a submissive, but he could have been like jealous or something. And I was like, Armwood did like a Eyes Wide Shut reference, although I don't think it was was it toward I think it was towards the husband. All right, now that I'm thinking about it, but I'm like, I might have to look at the clip again because I feel like he just brought it up to talk about like, oh, kink and whatnot. Honestly, I'm gonna have to look. I'm gonna have to look right now. And I'm back with context because I was like, why does he say this line? No, he says it because of the level of security that the person who facilitates these parties goes about. I'm assuming, at least, because there's a level of so this guy does do background checks and checks IDs and everything like that. Although one person did have a fake ID, so that person was like the red herring for this crime because they were like, "Why are you faking your identity? Who are you?" But he was just a voyeur. He was just watching, and he was the one that saw her get choked out. Um, and it ended up being her husband that did it. Um, and I'm like, no, I'm gonna finish it up before I go on my eyes wide shut rant. But yeah, so her husband ended up being the one to call him up because the strangers that were choking her just weren't doing it for her, and she was trying to take it as far as she could. And again, he doesn't like doing this. Uh, and she ended up going. She looked happy, and then she went unresponsive. So looking at the episode again, I'm like, it is a little weird that the husband asked somebody else to check on her. But I don't know. Either way, it ended with them being able to prove that she uh has built up essentially like throat muscles and has like uh scar tissue in her throat because of like how common her her getting choked out was. Um and it turned out when they checked her system that she had taken in a drug and was also drinking alcohol. And that combo uh created like both a numbness and like a euphoric feeling. So she wasn't able to feel when the choking was too much for her. And so they were able to let the husband go. And I was just like, oh, this is so sad. This is really sad. And it sucks that it happened. But I was like, overall, it was respectful. And I'm like, ooh, we're seeing more male subs in the public eye. And I'm like, oh, my favorite, my favorite. I feel like I talked about Sanctuary at some point, but that's definitely one of my favorite depictions of a submissive man and dominant woman uh movies recently. That and this Korean movie Love in Chains, I think it's called, based on a web comic, but it's not like a it's definitely not a R-rated one. Uh the web comic is definitely more tongue in cheek, but it's still oh, is it not called that? Oh, it's called Love and Leashes. Silly me. I can't remember things. No. And that one was pretty cute. I mean, I'm also like the plot of that is a little different from like Sanctuary, mainly because like the guy is a submissive and he sees dominance in the female character and she kind of just goes along with it, but I think later on she ends up enjoying it. Um but I'm like, ugh, it just he also isn't as experienced in the scene either, so it was like definitely like a miscommunication of like, oh, this is what I'm into, and you must be into this too. When she's like, I don't know what you're talking about, but she was going along with it. So it's like it's definitely more of like romantic comedy situation. It's fun. Sanctuary though is definitely more of a drama thing because it does start off with like a it starts off in a scene between the two characters and then they come out of the scene and then he's talking about like how he wants to end what they're doing. And she's like, no. And it kind of goes from there. It's really good. I really liked it. Oh, and then Eyes Wide Shut. I I want to say I hate that movie, but I need to finish that movie. So because I literally got to like sort of the iconic scene of like him being in that room with all those people masked and all that stuff. But I was just like, this is boringly heteronormative. Like like actually I'm bored right now. And I'm like, I feel like that movie's like 2 hours long or something. And like and I was also just like, are you fucking serious? Like you're literally doing all of this because your wife humored the idea of maybe cheating on you or just being interested in someone else and you're like crashing out because of this and then go so far as to try to yeah, this fucking movie is 2 hours and 40 minutes. And then he goes so far as to actually just try to cheat on her himself, even though she hasn't admitted to doing anything. I was like, fuck you. Fuck this guy. And it's also like it's Tom Cruise and uh Nicole Kidman. And they had just got divorced, so it's kind of funny that they're like in this movie together with each other. And it's Stanley Kubrick. I want to say it's his last film as well. Is it his last film? I'm gonna double check that. I was just like, I'm bored. Why this is boring. Yeah. So, oh my gosh. He died of a heart attack 6 days after showing the final cut to Warner Brothers. That's pretty crazy. Um, so yeah, this is the last movie he directed. I know he spent like forever trying to get it made, and it's based on um a novella from 1926. So I'm like, knowing the context of the novella being from 1926, and I think more or less it has a similar plot. I'm like, okay, for 1926, this is controversial, but for 1999, 2000, that's not like, wow, my wife fantasizes about other men. Woe is me. I'm gonna go fuck somebody. Like, what? What are we doing? I hate this. I hate this. It's a gorgeous movie. Gorgeous movie. Beautiful gowns. Um, but I was like, I'm bored. And also, the actual orgy was boring. I'm like, why are y'all, how are y'all, the fact that y'all made sex unsexy, like, and not that sensual and just, like, I'm bored. No, but I'm gonna do a full review of that, I think, when I finally finish it, because I'm like, I got to that one scene that I knew where everybody's just like masked up or whatever. I'm like, okay, that's it. um, what did I do that with? Uh, but yeah, it was boring. And I was like kind of disappointed with Stanley Kubrick because I'm like, really? This is your final film? This? But anyway, I'll have a full opinion about it later when I fully finish the movie. I was like mostly done, but I'm like, God damn, this movie's long as shit and nothing's happening. We're just seeing this man crash out, get called a slur. He's short as hell. Uh, and them acting the very beginning when they're acting like they're high on weed. I'm like, what are y'all doing? Y'all look drunk, not like y'all just smoked weed. That was a whole other thing too. And I'm like, what is going on with this movie? Anyway, so going on to the second episode of Will Trent, episode 10. I'm like, I can't believe we only have 8 episodes left. It's crazy. But episode 10, the cases are Will and Faith investigating a missing girl case, and then Angie and Armwood investigating a death of a regular at a local sandwich shop. And the case with the girl, that one was pretty serious because we kind of go into sort of a little more insight into like when Will is having these like visions of dead people or whatever. It was definitely more interactive, and we're also seeing him interact with the sort of figment of his imagination, and also see how people around him react to it because he's like yelling at her, the dead girl. Actually, okay, because I said she was missing, but they do find her body in the hot tub at her home, which is really sad. Um, and of course, the mom's like, "Oh, yeah, she's a straight A student. She never sneaks out or anything. Da, da, da. And then of course, actually, okay, I'm like, this is I'm so I just watched it, but I'm definitely seeing the parallels between like Laura Palmer, Twin Peaksy, because she was found in water. Laura was found wrapped up near a beach. This is a black girl, and this is a affluent black family. But then in general, like a lot of the actually no, it's a mix of either black people and like black crimes and white people and all this stuff. So I wouldn't say that Will Trent specifically deals with crime like in the black community or whatever, but it is a very diverse cast, a very diverse even like the background people are pretty diverse. And I'm like, that's good because that's very reflective of what it is to be in Atlanta, what it is to be in Georgia. There's lots of like Georgia's still very much a segregated state, even though it's not legal technically, but I'm like, a group of people are gonna live in homogenous neighborhoods. Like that's just what's gonna happen. So you can be in a predominantly black neighborhood, a predominantly white, a predominantly white neighborhood in Georgia, like that'll happen. There's some integration in some parts of it, but not really. And that is reflected in the show. But yeah, I'm like, actually, I didn't even. There's parallels, but they're not paying like homage to David Lynch or anything like that. Um, And so Will Trent throughout the episode is also just seeing the ghost of this girl, and she even herself is like, I'm your subconscious. I'm just telling you things, but you're the one seeing me. And yeah, so there's like parts where he's like yelling at her to like quiet down or whatever while he's in the car with Faith. Like he yells or whatever. And she's like, "Are you good?" without saying that. And he's like, I am doing a therapy thing where you yell to prevent intrusive thoughts. And she's like, I'm glad you're working on yourself. It goes back to whatever she was doing and like working on the case, like changing the subject. And I'm like, oh my God, she's just so used to him and being weird and like different. She's like, I don't care. This is just you, Will. This is just you. And yeah, so like her murder kind of unravels, and you realize that like she was not well liked. She did party a lot. She did date around, possibly. Um, and you find out she had a childhood friend that she's not really close with anymore. Like there's a falling out after the friend's mom passed away, and now she's on medication. The friend, and she's been we later on find out that she's been having like episodes and things like that of like blacking out and like finding knives around her or whatever, so she doesn't know what's going on really. And her stepdad doesn't know what's going on either. And come to find out, the girl who died, she planned on going to MIT. She was actually trying to help her friend because she was like, this isn't normal, something's going on. And she was realizing that her friend was getting drugged, and her prescription, whatever prescription drug she was being given, wasn't her true prescription. And she found this out and realized that like her stepdad was drugging her to make her feel crazy because as it turns out, when her mom passed away, she was left with a lot of money, a lot of trust, like a trust fund and everything that she would probably have access to by the time she turned 18. And the stepdad's plan was to essentially make her seem crazy and put her into a conservatorship. And of course, they reference Britney Spears. And uh, essentially was doing all of this to make it so that he can have control over her wealth because she's, unable to take care of herself or whatever. So, yeah, so I was like, yikes, that's so awful. And that was one part of the killing. The other part was finding out that the director of this dance studio, very like affluent dance studio where like all these black families come and have their children debut or whatever, and they're doing like the waltz and very traditional stuff. Um, but she was also involved in the plan to murder this girl, and that was like the final uh not clue, but puzzle piece, I guess. And then on the other side, we get more sort of like domestic stuff with Armwood and Angie. And I only say that because Armwood is going through a divorce and he's got split custody with the kids between him and his wife. He has a more like adolescent daughter and like a kind of tween teen son. And they get they get poison ivied, and I'm like, yeah, that shit's all over there. Poison ivy, poison oak, all over there. You gotta bundle up and make sure you're not touching most foliage. But and so the mom is like, well, because you got them, this happened on your watch. You're gonna have to watch them while they heal up and everything. And the son is being all fussy, and Armwood is like, does he hate me now? Like, what's going on? And come to find out, it's because he sort of feels like dodgy, I guess. I'm trying to cagey about telling his dad that he's doing tryouts not for wrestling, which is what his dad encouraged, but for a play, specifically Romeo and Juliet, and he wants to go for Romeo. And you can tell like we could tell like Armwood was like he was taken aback but not disappointed because he's like, well, I'm just happy that you're doing something that you're passionate about and I'm gonna support you. Not that he said all those things, but he said it in his own way. Like that was the vibe. And I was like, this is cute. I'm like glad he's like encouraging him to go for it and specifically go for Romeo because the boy was feeling like self-conscious about like having poison ivy like rashes on his face and everything like that. And he's like Armwood was like, no, just be confident, crack a joke about it, and then go into your lines and like do really well. And I was like, oh, that's cute. This is cute. This is wholesome. I love this. Good job. And this fucking sucks, but like their thing was this person they figured out that this person's last meal was a sandwich essentially, and he only had like a bite of the sandwich, and nothing was stolen off of this person. Like no, like he still had his wallet and keys and everything on him. So they're like, well, obviously the motivation was whatever the sandwich was, and then they figured out what the sandwich was because the contents of his stomach were told out loud, and the daughter was around, and she's like, "Oh, that sounds like the jingle that I heard of from the sandwich place." And it was like a chopped cheese sandwich place, and I'm like, "Oh, chopped cheese is just going everywhere, I guess." Since it's mostly like a New York delicacy. And they go to the sandwich place and they get the CCTV footage and they literally see the victim buy the sandwich and it's the last sandwich and the guy right after him is so fucking pissed about it. And it turns out, well, they find him because they go there to try the sandwich as well and they find out it's sold out, but they get the second most popular sandwich. And while they're sitting down, the suspect comes by the window, and the kids see their dad like sort of grab him and tackle him to the ground, and we're like, whoa. And what happens? And then after that, they find out like dude was having a bad day. That was the last straw, not getting the sandwich, and he murdered over the sandwich. And he's telling his Armwood's telling his daughter about this, and like sometimes bad things happen, and it sucks because she's like that doesn't make sense, and it's like yeah, it doesn't, but sometimes that's just life. Um, and yeah, that was the last two episodes of Will Trent. Let's get into White Lotus. So apparently, I haven't talked about White Lotus since the first episode, and now we're 5 episodes in with 3 more episodes to go. And I'm like, oh well. I can't remember. I think I probably did mention like the different setups. We have the family, which is like the parents, a daughter, 2 sons, and they're all in Thailand at the White Lotus for the daughter's like thesis on like Buddhism or whatever. Um, let's see. You have the Walton Goggins character and his very young girlfriend. That was the other pair. You have the three. I mean, they're I would say mature women because they're old, but they're not like old, you know. Um, like they're probably in their 40s, mid to late 40s. And all three of them are friends. They grew up together. Honestly, they're very like passive aggressive, and I'm like, do y'all actually like each other, or y'all doing that white thing of like acting like you like someone when really you hate their guts, but because polite society, you are, putting on a farce essentially, and I'm like, I hate that shit. Just if you don't like someone, don't be around them. Don't waste your energy. Like we all have one life. Like please, you're wasting your energy and time being around people that don't build you up and tear you down. And it's like, no, just have new friends. I'm like, y'all are messy and weird. And I'll get into the messy. We have Belinda, who was in season 1, um, played by Natasha Rothwell, and she's here as a part of like a work exchange. So she's just trying to further her sort of physical healing prowess with like learning different techniques for massaging and whatnot. And the Walton Goggins, and I'm gonna reference my little notebook and go by the character names and not the actor names. The his name is Rick and Chelsea. Um, oh, I didn't write down the other couple, but there's Gary, quote unquote. His real name is Greg. His real name in the show is Greg, and his very young wife, who Chelsea and Rick run into, and Chelsea, also being young and attached to an older white man, uh, finds camaraderie with this woman who they come down to the resort, but they live in Thailand, and he's just rich. Um, I'm like, what happened? Yeah, so then over the last few episodes, we're learning more about these different dynamics between these different people. Um, at the same time, with the family, like in the background, the dad, Timothy, he keeps getting these calls, and this is like sort of a meditative resort, so you're not supposed to have any technology. You're supposed to be without technology for the week that you're there. But he's like, I need my phone and my laptop and all this stuff. So it was agreed that he wouldn't look at anything in like the shared areas because no one else is supposed to have it. And you're not supposed to remind people of your phone. And there's things going on with his business and like the government is investigating him and he's probably going to owe a lot of money, or actually all of his assets are going to be taken from him and they're not going to have any money is more so what's happening. And he's getting pieces of this throughout the last 5 episodes. In the fourth episode he is told that information. And I'm like, at the same time, oh, okay, I didn't mention this, but we have those like sort of American dynamics and interactions, and then of course we have to have, aside from like Belinda talking to the workers here at this space, we do have a little plot points from some of the workers at this specific White Lotus in Thailand. um and so the guard who is supposed to watch when people come in, he's distracted because he's like in love with this other person that works there. And this guy comes in without him noticing and then steals, he uses a gun and like steals stuff from like the jewelry place that's like in front of, in the entrance of the hotel. And Chelsea's involved in this. She keeps getting in these weird situations where her life is being threatened. um And I feel like that's kind of a red herring. I don't think she's gonna be the one to die because, again, like White Lotus starts with a person dying, and that kind of sets the stage of us going back to the previous week or two. Actually, no, the previous week. And actually, that makes sense why there's only 8 episodes. Um, because the first episode is like establishing what happens in the future. And then the rest of the episode is like building up to their time at the um resort. And then the next 7 episodes are every single day. I don't know why I just got that. Oh my god, yeah. Or like depending on how long of a flashback it is and building up. But I'm like, that makes so much sense that we're following every single day of this resort with all these people. I'm like, that's so, I love that. So it's definitely purposeful, and that means everything that we're seeing is important and is driving the story. Um anyway, so what I was saying was like, so because of this robbery at gunpoint, it was decided amongst like the hotel staff that the guard would have a gun. And this fucking guy, I'm like, he's so distracted by this woman that he's in love with that works there that he doesn't even notice that first of all, he should have locked away that gun after he was looking at it. But no, he doesn't. He leaves it out, and then of course it gets stolen on his watch. I'm like, yet again, something else that happens on his watch. And of course it's Timothy that steals the gun. And because he's just like so overwhelmed by what's going on. He's kind of failed his family. He no longer has his wealth, basically. Like his assets are frozen. I don't think he can use his accounts anymore. And he's been taking his wife's prescription drugs and kind of numbing himself to everything with him. And she thinks got stolen from her because she's like really paranoid and everything like that. She doesn't trust anyone. And but of course she doesn't suspect that her husband would be the one to do it. She just suspects a stranger to do wrong to her, essentially, is how she is. And so I'm like, okay, so he definitely stole the gun, and either he's gonna be the person to die, or he's just gonna try to kill himself. And in the fifth episode, he does plan on killing himself with the gun. And I'm like, oh, this is fucked. We also find out that Piper the daughter, uh, tricked her whole fucking family into coming to Thailand because there actually isn't a thesis. She was just trying to suss out the vibes and figure out if this is what she wanted to do and like live there in Thailand at I think it's called ashrams uh at this meditation center for a year. And she's like, "Yes, this is it. This is what I want to do." And I'm like, "Are you fucking serious? You could have just did this on your own. Why did you have to involve your whole fucking family and trick them into doing this?" And it's like so fucking selfish. Like I was on her side more or less for the previous episodes, but I'm like, this is really fucked up and you're no better than your family because she tries to act like she's better than them and less judgmental and it's like, no, you're as judgmental as them. You're just not like fucking racist, I guess. I mean they're also from Virginia, I think. No, but that doesn't mean anything. It's a little bit. No. Where was it? North Carolina. I'll look that up. But anyway, so there's that dynamic. You have the brothers. I was talking to my friend earlier about this, but I'm like, I think uh Lachlan, which is the youngest brother, I think he puts on a sort of not woe is me, but um wimpy sort of persona around his family, just because he's the youngest. He's grown up with them. He knows that Saxon looks up to his dad and tries to emulate his dad, but Lachlan doesn't want to do that. He's his own person, but because all of the people in his family have such like big personalities, it's easier for him to just go along with what they want rather than, pushing back because that would be more exhaustive for him. Because sure, he like just goes along with what people are asking him to do, but he, like when Piper was like, "You have to help me be here for me when I tell our parents that I want to move to Thailand." And he's like, "What the fuck? Why are you trying to involve me with this? Because this is also my first time hearing this. And I can't believe you just said that. And now you want me to be on your side about this when I'm not even fully grasping, the situation." So for him to put his foot down about that and honestly not even put his no, he put his foot down, but he didn't actually he was just like, "Huh?" And then didn't actually like respond to her and just went along with Saxon and like what Saxon wanted to do. Um and, this shocked Piper because she's like, but he's always taking my side. And really, it's like, he just tries to keep the peace, honestly, in this family. Like, he's the sort of peacekeeper because, again, they all have these big personalities and want to just be in control of the room, essentially. Um, and a whole other thing too was like, especially in this fifth episode, I feel like we were getting sort of closer to what his true personality is because throughout the show we see him like slouched over. His mom even signs him up for like a posture fixing massage thing, which is like fucked up, but um and so we're made to believe that he's not confident, that he's a nerd and all this stuff. Just like very stereotypical things. Saxon is trying to push him to be more masculine, wants to get him laid and all these things and everything like that. I'm like, that's a lot, but people can do what they want. And then like I don't like Saxon because of that, but I also realize I'm realizing now that that's just him trying to look out for his brother and try to make him be more confident, not necessarily make him be like Saxon. Honestly, probably make him be more like their dad because to Saxon, their dad is like the ultimate like patriarch and everything because he mirrors him a lot. And I'm saying that because all of them are invited to. the uh Greg and his wife's like yacht party. And of course, they start mingling with all of these people who are in Thailand because they're escaping murder and all this stuff. And they're all older people with very young wives. So, of course, that's like the mom, who's played by Parker Posey, is very like uncomfortable. And she's like, I need my drugs. And then they get stolen from her or they go missing. And Um, at the end of the party, Saxon and Lachlan decide to continue on with the girls, and this is when Piper's like shocked that Lachlan doesn't have her back. 'Cause he doesn't, because he's as shocked as his parents will be. We later on see that she wants to live in fucking Thailand. Like, where did this come from? And what else happens? Okay, so now we are seeing Lachlan sort of be flirtatious, I guess. He's putting on his like I'm a young, inexperienced like boy by doing these magic tricks and like sort of flirting with these older women in this way. Um and but I was just like, oh, this is so I was feeling like, oh, he's definitely putting this on. He's doing this on purpose because some people just like this like sort of shy guy, um, not confident like vibe. And but you can tell that he was being confident because his posture was changing. Like he was standing straighter. And I'm like, if he's got bad posture most of his life, his posture wouldn't be this good after one massage, especially because the guy was like, no, you have to do this consistently. Um, and he was gaining all this attention, and Saxon was encouraging to be flirtatious and stuff. And the woman that's married to Greg offers them drugs without telling them what the drugs were. And Lachlan's like, yeah, fuck it. He's just going for it. And Saxon is just like, no, I don't do drugs. I'm like, that's interesting. Only because this is, I would think he would have more experience in drug usage, but I forgot that he doesn't do drugs because their dad doesn't do drugs and he mirrors his dad's behavior. But Lockley was down, and I was like, he's a little too down for me, and he's handling his alcohol a little too well for me in this episode. And then, of course, we get back to like the weird, like incestuous thing because they end up making out in front of the two girls, like Chelsea and the married woman. Of course, it's like after the Chelsea and the married woman make out with each other. So the married woman's like, I'll do it too. And Saxon's like, huh? And Lachlan's the one that like goes for it. And I'm like, uh huh. Interesting. Um, and then Belinda, I'm like, oh, I'm so glad this happens. She recognized Greg, who's going by Gary now, as Jennifer Coolidge's husband, because she finally just looks up what happened to Jennifer Coolidge's character and, finds out that she passed away. But there was all these like killings and that her husband is wanted for questioning. And so now she's like, I knew who this fucker was, but now she's um anxious that he might try to do something to her too, because obviously he killed her, right? Like, why is he in Thailand? Why is he, not in Italy answering questions to the police? And he's married. Um, and of course, one of the people that work at the hotel come up to her and it's like, oh, this rich guy was really interested in you, was asking all these questions. And she's trying to tell him this guy murdered his wife. And he's like, I don't think that's what's going on. Please don't gossip about the guests. I'm like, you fucker. And then, of course, she talks about her grievances to the really cute worker that she's been um, training with. And then he believes her, of course. And I'm like, oh, that's so cute. He believes her. And he's trying to be like supportive and protective. of her because she hears a sound and it was like a lizard. It was a big lizard. Um, and then they kiss, and I was like, yes, kiss, kiss. She deserves this. And then I think in the next episode we'll actually have her son be there. And I'm like, things are falling into place because the son is the one that we follow in the first episode. And he comes across whatever body it is, and I'm like, who's gonna die? I don't think it's Belinda. I don't want it to be Belinda. Um, and mainly because, again, he doesn't go to the body. He runs away. I'm like, if it was his mom who got shot, he wouldn't have done that. But I'm like, it could have been a fake out. I don't know. I don't know. But at least my theory is it's either gonna be um Rick's character, with played by Walton Goggins, Timothy, played by Jason Isaacs, or who else? Lachlan, maybe? Nah, I don't think it's Lachlan. Or it's the guard who's gonna get killed. Those are my guesses. I was definitely gunning for the guard, but I could see Rick's character doing something dumb. No. I feel like he's gonna change because his whole thing about coming to Thailand wasn't a vacation. It was because he finally opened up, actually, especially after having these like sort of anger management sessions with a therapist in therapist, spiritual person, who helped him with meditation and like talking through definitely more counseling. Um things, and he finally opened up to Chelsea about how his dad was killed when he was younger, and he's here to essentially confront the person who killed his dad. And the owner of the hotel is married to this person who's now in Bangkok. So he went to Bangkok, and then we get a Sam Rockwell cameo. Um, that was a wild ride, wild monologue of things about him. Um, essentially being so high that he was like just fucking all these like Asian women in Thailand, and then was so high that he was like, "Do I want to be one of these women? Do I want to be a woman?" And then he gets dolled up. And then he starts fucking guys, and then all this stuff, and then he's like, maybe I'm good. And then he quits drugs and like alcohol and sex and everything, and then becomes a Buddhist. And it was like, this was what a roller coaster of things. I don't even know what I was gonna say. So I don't know. I think because he ran into this person who, I'm assuming they, you know, in the past were doing more dangerous stuff together. This person who's been 10 months sober and, has turned his life around, and all these other signs of like, it's okay to move on. Don't let this rule you. I'm like, it would suck for him to finally be turning a new leaf to be the one to die. That's why I'm like, it's probably going to be Timothy, mainly because he, I don't know, killed, maybe not kill himself. That's why I'm like, it might just be the guard because I feel like he's gonna do something stupid, or just like involve himself in a involve himself in a dangerous situation so that he can impress the woman he's in love with. Like that's what I think. But we'll see in like 3 weeks, and I think I'm gonna end it there. Thanks for listening. I forgot to plug my like archive last time. So yeah, if you want to check out the archive, it's www.nwitapod.com. Again, that's nwwitapod.com. I mean, www. And then you can find me wherever you listen to podcasts. I do plan on adding like visual elements to some of the clips from these, so you'll probably s- see that pop up on like TikTok and Instagram and YouTube, wherever. So that'll be future plans. Either way, Take care of yourselves out there. Bye.